Good afternoon, this is Anna Nichenko on UATV English, breaking hard truths in easy terms for the whole free world, directly from Ukraine. Russia is returning to the energy war. Yesterday, they made the first mass missile attack on the energy infrastructure of Ukraine in 6 months. Someone may say that this is bad, but it seems to me that everything is not so bad. After all, such a massive attack on Ukraine is the consequence of the Kremlin's defeats in other spheres. Failure in the United Nations, massive missile strikes on the army leadership in Crimea, the end of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. All of these could become a main theme for independent Russian media. But then there are only propaganda ones. They talk about how the great Russian army attacks the civilian population of Ukraine. That's right, Russia is not at war with the government of Ukraine, but a war against the Ukrainian people. And that is why the Russians purposefully attack civilian objects, which is a gross violation of international humanitarian law. Moscow's goal is the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine, the disintegration of Ukrainian society, the destruction of statehood. The aggressor returns to the tactics he used in the previous winter. Last year, Russia failed to freeze the Ukrainians, and it will not be able to do so now. And now they have 43 less missiles for the winter. Therefore, the damage will be less. This does not mean that they will not be able to significantly damage the Ukrainian power system, but it is much easier to restore it in the fall and winter.
The distribution network of Ukrenergo is ready to transmit winter volumes of electricity. Currently, the company is working on increasing the reserve capacity of the network, completing engineering protection and working out various scenarios for responding to possible attacks on the energy infrastructure by Russia. Volodymyr Kudrytsky, chairman of the management board of the NEC Ukrenergo.
The Ukrainian state and society are becoming stronger. We have prepared for challenges. Ukraine will actively defend itself. We will respond to missile terror by destroying the aggressor's military infrastructure on its own territory. The war against Ukraine takes all Russian resources. Moscow is forced to reduce its military presence abroad and is losing influence in a number of regions. The recent escalation in the Nagorno-Karabakh zone has shown that Russia is no longer reckoned within the South Caucasus. And this despite the fact that Armenia, one of the parties to the conflict, is the direct partner of the Kremlin in the CSTO. Yes, now both Moscow and Yerevan are trying to explain that the so-called Nagorno-Karabakh Republic was an independent organization and they have nothing to do with them. But believe me, we Ukrainians know when a separatist region has its independence. We saw it in Donetsk and Luhansk. Now, the conflict that Moscow used to influence both Azerbaijan and Armenia is almost resolved, so Russia is losing influence over its closest neighbors. Russia doesn't have the strength to hold on to the South Caucasus. They left Karabakh. They are losing influence in Armenia, in the CSTO, and they will inevitably lose influence in their other areas of presence. And could this mean that we will soon see, for example, Assad without Putin and African regimes without the Kremlin? Propagandists try to show that Armenia is to blame, that this is Russia's decision, as was the case with the gesture of goodwill in Ukraine. But in fact, it is connected with strict economy of resources and a total crisis. All resources are thrown at Ukraine, which destroys Russian so-called valor, and the next gesture of goodwill may be the withdrawal of Russian troops from Syria. As we can see, Russia has ruined its relations with most orthodox countries of the world. Bulgaria, Romania, Greece, Macedonia already in NATO. Even Serbian President Alexander Vučić compares Russian aggression against Ukraine to the bombing of Yugoslavia in the 19 1990s. The very concept of Russian peacekeeping has become nonsense because Russia brings only wars to the world, and its so-called peacekeepers are unwilling and unable to protect anyone. Ukraine and Poland quarreled. Yeah, right? Don't wait for it. The ministers of Agrarian policy of Ukraine and Poland agreed to find a solution for the export of Ukrainian agricultural products that takes into consideration the interests of both countries. And all this is because Ukraine and Poland are strategic allies with common interests, goals, and values. Both countries need each other. Yes, maybe the politicians of the two countries made statements that are not very pleasant to the partners, but it is still worth looking at the root of the problem, which is Russia's armed aggression. The grain crisis in relations between Kyiv and Warsaw was caused not by the hostile intentions of the parties, but by an objective circumstances, the Russian blockade of the seaports of Ukraine. Ukraine and Poland agreed to find a solution that would be equally beneficial to both parties. This means that overcoming the crisis makes both countries stronger. This is how real partners should solve mutual problems. As Warsaw's support for Kyiv is not only altruistic but also a fundamental interest of Poland itself. Ukraine is at the forefront of deterring Russian aggression in Europe, and Poland is right behind it. So it was Anna Nichenko on UATV English, hoping to give you the hard truths in easy enough terms on our daily wrap-up today. Comment, like, and subscribe. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters a lot to us. Stay safe and tuned for more tomorrow. See you.